I just picked up this new welding positioner tool from Vevor, and today we're going to run it through its paces and see how well it works. Alright, so before we get started, let's talk about what is a welding positioner tool. Now this tool just makes your welds a lot nicer when you're welding round stock. And what you'll do is you'll load this up into this chuck on the top here. This foot pedal activates the rotation, and that way you can do a continuous bead all the way around without having to stop and start. It also will make a much stronger weld. Another feature this thing has is there's some wing nuts on the side of it, which allows you to change the actual position you're rotating this at, and it just helps your welding position in general. Straight out of the box, this is a pretty straightforward unit. You have your rotating chuck on the top, and the box comes with the power cord and a foot pedal just like you'd see with your welder. And simply enough, this is the connection right here. The foot pedal connects just like you would your welder, the power, and this is your immediate stop and the speed control. Over here on the side, you have two more buttons. You have your power switch and your rotation. You can change the direction this thing actually rotates depending on your position in welding or your preference. So normally these tools are really expensive, and this unit would actually cost you over $600. But this thing I got from Vevor was only $250 shipped to my front door. So today we're going to run it through its paces and see if it's worth the money. Let's get this thing connected and we'll get welding. Okay, now that we have this thing all ready to go and plugged in, we can power it on. Now right here I have it set to that direction, but you can change the rotation there. Now we just hit the foot pedal. You can see that's a real nice slow rotation. We can crank it up with the speed control right here on the side, and that thing will turn pretty quick, probably faster than anyone can weld. As far as the chuck goes, this will accept over 3-inch tube. So this is some over 3-inch exhaust that I have right here, which is like a slip fit. So this fits in that jaw, no problem. All right, this is gonna be my first welding test piece. You see I have 2 seams I'm gonna weld on here. And I'm gonna load this up in the chuck and we're gonna start welding. All right, here's a look at that first weld. As you can see, it's rotating a little fast for me, but not the prettiest weld. I probably could dial in the settings a little better, make it look a little nicer. So now we're going to try the TIG welder up top next. TIG welding with this positioner is much different than the MIG welder. I'm learning you have to start your weld pull before you rotate, and as your weld pull slows down, you have to let off the foot pedal. And you'll hear me stop and start the rotation as I continue through the weld. All right, so don't worry about this right here. I was just getting my settings dialed in before I started welding. And we'll just take a look at this thing as it rotates around. Now this did pretty well. Now, I've actually sped this up a little bit, but it was moving a little quicker than I could keep up with, so it's not exactly a stack of dimes. But I think the more that I work with this, the more efficient that I'll be with it. The other thing is, you can notice it's just made this thing a lot easier working through the welding process, that it's turning itself and you're not having to stop and reposition your weld every time you run out of space. Now we can load up this piece of stainless exhaust tube. This is a 3-inch tube I talked about earlier. We'll see how it does with this material. Here's another view. As you can see, I'm feathering off and on with the rotation as I get the weld pull to move forward. All right, here's another look at that weld. I just cleaned it up a little bit with the wire wheel. I'll rotate this thing around. This is not by any means a perfect example of welding. As you can see, I came off path and went in a different direction. However, I didn't have anything to go by. Just testing to see how this thing works and rotates itself and trying to keep up with it. It's going to take some practice, but I think the more I work with it, the better results I'm going to get from it. So there you have it. This is the welding positioner tool from Vevor. For just $250, this thing was a good deal. I'm going to be able to use this in the future for future welding. I'm going to make some exhaust next. So having the ability to rotate this thing around while you're actually welding is going to make much nicer welds, given the fact that I spend more time with this and get more used to the actual fluid movement of it. This is the first time I've welded a moving object before, so this is a fun experience as a welder, and I think you might like it as well. I'll leave a link in the description where you can get one. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.